part of it. But it goes deeper than that. Up around here somewhere, they actually briefly set up and it's sort of, I think, aborted. It was planned to be a bigger thing, but with the invasion of Norway being successful, it sort of gets dismantled. But Germany is setting up a secret sort of naval base, mainly for submarines, to operate out of the Soviet Union. But again, like I say, it's no longer needed once Germany occupies Norway. So we don't hear much about that. So that's naval base cooperation. The Germans are, well, I mean, you go back just to like major thing, I think it's 1928. One of the major developers, manager factory developers from, I think it's GM, General Motors, here in America, gets permission from the U.S. government to set up a major automobile / tractor type, or tractor, whatever sort of factory in the Soviet Union. So they set that up. That's sort of giving them American-style production. And the Soviets, after that, replicate that style of production. But this is where it's keyed in with the Germans. Germany gives them a lot of technical development, not like at the high end of technology, but sort of at the medium end of technology. The German-Soviet anti-tank gun that is basically standard at the time of the start of the Barbarossa is a version of the Pak-36. It is licensed production in Germany. Now, the Soviets, from the start, upgun it to 45 millimeters instead of 37 millimeters, but that's the only significant change. They also produce tens of thousands. I think it's based off the Zundap motorcycles, with sidecars. I think it's that as opposed to the BMW, but it's one of the two models that they set up. Germany helps them set up a motorcycle factory as well. Germany sells them a half-completed battle cruiser that they've been working on. And the Soviets, really want some naval development, so they send it up there. It's not, it's towed up to the Leningrad area. And they give, I think, all of the turrets and all of the guns for it, but only one turret is mounted on it. And by the time the Barbarossa starts, it still just has one turret on it, and it is used significantly from the port as a battery to fire at the Germans. It's I don't know, like 10-inch or 12-inch naval guns, a triple turret battery in it. So the Germans are giving selling them a major ship that the Soviets really weren't able to complete in time. Soviets have very poor naval construction, both time and priority. So it's sort of the one lowest priorities. To complete this battleship and other battleships, the Soviet Union needs to get a steel rolling mill. If you know, this is a huge, basically what you do is, you make steel, you pour it, you get it into big sort of ingots or blocks or whatever, but you need to roll it to shape it and whatnot, to give it shape. And so you heat it up and you roll it. A huge rolling mill. They don't have one, and they don't currently have the means to build one. So you would have to build the means to build one and then build one. So the Soviets don't have the means to build one of these huge steel rolling mills. And the Germans go, yeah, well, we'll sell you or it's sort of sold as in trade goods. You're getting like Pickles saying oil coming out of the Caucasus or something like that for this. Now, this steel rolling mill, if they didn't have it, they couldn't have made the KV series of tanks or the T-34s, because if you look at all of the earlier Soviet tanks, they just are fairly thin armored, whether they're the big like T-28s, that have a turret and then two little sub turrets, or some of the big monstrosities, I think it's 35 or whatever, that's a huge like 5 turret thing. But none of that armor is very, very thick. And most of their tanks are T-26 light sort of infantry tanks, or the BT series, mostly BT-5s and BT-7s. They're sort of fast cavalry tanks. Those are all fairly light armored. The Soviets did not have the means of production to produce the heavier tanks. And the Germans are thinking in terms of ship hull construction and naval armor construction, and the Germans aren't terribly worried about that. They're not thinking, oh, this is giving them the ability to have superior tanks. And my understanding is these the one or more rolling mills that they get is what allows them to build the tanks, and maybe to build some other large other rolling mills or whatnot. So Germany is selling, it's what Marx sort of said, in that the bourgeoisie will sell us the means to hang themselves, or to hang them. So Germany is giving a lot of technical developments. I really don't know how much at this time in 1937, and definitely by the time you get into 1938 and the Sudeten crisis, no one is thinking Germany, they've reoccupied the Rhineland, they're building the West Wall. No one's thinking they've announced that the Luftwaffe exists, which is another breaking of the Versailles Treaty. So you don't need the treaty with the Soviet Union here just to do this, but it's fairly quick. Unlock some research slots for armor and techs for both Germans, and that's where I'm sort of using it. I don't know how much this was used at this time, but there is a lot of this stuff going on, and like I say, it's happening some now, much more from 39 to so late 39 to roughly June of 41. So year and a half or so that there's heavy cooperation between Germany and the Soviet Union, much more than even the Soviets don't want to admit now. But really, they both allow each other to do what they want to do. The alliance, Hitler in 1939, September of 1939, after France and Britain have done nothing over the Saarland, have done nothing over retaking the Rhineland, have done nothing over taking back the Czechoslovakia as part of the Versailles Treaty, got a little sort of, I don't know if you want to call it a micro port, but a little port in Hamburg and another one in Stettin that they could use, and that ships could pull into that there and dock and unload stuff, and either put them on barges to come up through barge traffic, especially up Hamburg, or be loaded onto train cars and sealed up. And the Germans couldn't look inside, couldn't tax it, couldn't stop anything in it, and then that would come in and out of Czechoslovakia. So Czechoslovakia could trade with the world through Germany without Germany's permission. Hitler stopped that. Then Hitler is reuniting with Austria, which Austria had been told during the Versailles Treaty, not just because there's more than that, because the different treaty with Austria, but the whole sort of protocol, if you will, of the Versailles Treaty setup is that Austria needs to remain separate from Germany. They don't complain over that. They give up over the Sudeten crisis. And then when Hitler actually occupies the rest of Czechoslovakia, yeah, they make diplomatic protests and whatnot. And, oh, well, now we're going to defend Poland. And so Hitler really thinks that there isn't any real threat from, now he's a little worried. People that, around there, he knows it's a gamble, but he's not really worried about that. What he's worried about is the Soviet Union, because, Poland is obviously a buffer state. Well, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact divides up the eastern parts, that the Soviets weren't going to take Ploetsi, get to have parts of Moldova, get to have approximately half or slightly more of Poland, get to have or Estonia and Latvia and Finland were going to be in the Soviet sphere. Lithuania was going to be in the German sphere. And so, and do this thing. That allows Hitler to do this thing. Now, Germany ends up taking more of Poland than originally agreed upon. So in fairly early in 1940, Hitler agrees, or there's actually it's Molotov goes to Germany and they negotiate there to give Stalin, sort of sphere of influence over Lithuania for a chunk of Poland to remain in German territory. So that was sort of a later worked out swap. But that calms down. So that allows Hitler to feel comfortable enough to go after Poland, ends up at war with, Britain and France. But that gets that going. But also what Germany is doing is giving both technical means as well as industrial capacity to really boost up the Soviet Union, to allow them to become more aggressive. So they're both sort of cooperating with each other and making things worse. And hello, the Rover 12. How are you doing today? How important was Germany getting the 30? Useful, but not important as a tank designs. The 35T, they don't produce anymore. I think they grab up some that were meant for going for Sweden or something like that were sort of waiting to be shipped, the 35T. But the 35T is basically completed production. They used the 38T up until the end of the war, making various things like the Hetzers. That was sort of the final use of the engine, drivetrain, track form. Very useful, but not critical, I would say. Very useful, but not critical. If the French were more offensively mindset, they could have defeated Germany in 1939 during this Saar offensive. I don't know that that's the case, Arno, if they were more offensively minded. Because even if they're offensively minded, their command and control still looks like World War I, meaning they don't use radios, they don't use telephones for command and control, because they fear. I mean, they talk to each other on radios and telephones, but it's official that you do not do anything until you have written or in-person verbal orders. They are afraid of enemy interference, giving counter orders or whatnot. The French are paranoid about that. And I just don't think they have the the command loop decision chain to be able to defeat the Germans. what could happen is that if they'd secured the Ruhr, the western side of the Rhine, that might have triggered a coup within Germany, the army against Hitler. That, I think, might have been able to happen. And that I could see being a real thing. Hello, Crouchy. How you doing? Currently watching the World at War TV series. I'm only at episode 4. It is fantastic, but please no spoilers. Thanks. Yes. Yes. You're waiting to see who's going to win. That is really good. Laurence Olivier is the announcer for it, or the narrator, or whatever you want to call it. That does a great job. It is. I consider it a fundamental series to watch to understand what's going on, though do note it is out of date. Like when that series was made, and one of the good things about it is it was made when a lot of the participants, including high-level participants, were still alive, not just, some 20-year-old private in 1945 still alive, but older general officers and whatnot were still alive when that was made. But the whole Enigma, code breaking Bletchley Park secrets had not yet been publicly out. So that's not taken into account of in that series. So keep that in mind when you watch it. The historians that put that series together do not know of that part of World War II yet. And the people who they interview weren't allowed to talk about it yet. That's like a major big thing I can point to, that it's not just more detail is known or something like that. That's a major thing in understanding, especially the Mediterranean War, and intercepting the messages to Rommel and whatnot, as well as to understanding the the Battle of the Atlantic, because until to the end of the war, the German Navy does not understand that all their messages are being read that are going to and from the submarines. And so when they're like, oh, well, hey, go patrol this area. Well, they just send out a message to say, convoy, go around this area. They don't tell them why. Go around this area. And then they go, submarine hunters, go hunt there. And the Germans make one type of radar detector that they have to try to detect radar being used against the submarines, that I think somehow they think maybe is emitting some sort of signal, so they don't even use it because they're afraid because somehow the Allies are finding out too easy about some of this stuff. So yeah, that's just not in the historian's thought process at that time. But I do recommend watching the series. Highly recommend it. It's just understand that isn't covered there. Spanish are still attacking here, so you come back into this. You come back into this. So we got 2. No, I won't spoil who wins the war. So we've got better submachine guns. Well, let's do better reconnaissance equipment. Okay, so we pushed into there, so you stop. You start pushing into there. Looks like they're going to abandon Valencia, so I'm going to wait till they leave, and then I'm going to try to rush in with my panzers. Oh, we got some nationalist partisans over there. Well, that's maybe why these guys are going somewhere else. Okay, fluorescent lighting. Very good. A little more productivity efficiency, but that was quick to do. We'll do that now. Okay, well. Let's do another military factory. We'll do it. Do it there, somewhat in the east. We do have new submachine guns. Okay, well, what we're going to do is some of the stuff I'm intentionally like these. I'm keeping old stuff in production until I get the Kuba wagons and just do the one-time sort of switch. Oh, are we not even producing submachine guns right now? I guess we are not. Well, eventually we will need to. Okay. We have one free factory. Well, what I think instead of that, we're going to start the production of Panzer Force. Get that going. He keeps changing his mind. Hindenburg disaster. Political power drops by a bit. Okay, well, they just got reinforcements and they're fine. Okay, you attack there. And, pause. You support that attack there. No longer under World Fair renown. I find it fascinating trying to understand what was going on, like with the National Socialists and the Communists, and how variable, shall we say, their alliances and whatnot. Okay, treaty with USSR. So we got that done. What I think... that would be... oh, no, I want to do... here, I want to get these assembly plants here. 42 days. That would be next. Is it just the 3 chromium? It is just the 3 chromium. Oh, there's nobody in there. Let's go. I'll go while the getting's good. Maybe there's nobody in Barcelona either. Looks like they're sending... oh. Okay, pause. Okay, construction research treaty will be a stepping stone to the future negotiations. Great. Well, let's start with this. We also have... okay, here we go. This will get us some of our tank improvements here. I'm not exactly sure what all of that... okay, this is ahead of time. Okay, check technology. Okay, 105 millimeter howitzers needed. Just trying to see. Yeah. Anti-tank upgrade. Okay, for 39. Okay, let's see. This will get us some of our improvements here. Yeah, let's do this first. Improve tank design. Okay, so we've German military mission to China. Okay, remove Sino-German relations, which grants consumer goods factories minus 1%. Empire of Japan gets Germany recalls advisors. Withdrawals advisors. Germany advisors, which grants land doctrine research. Okay. One of the things I've recently learned about what happens here is Germany has had a long-standing, though briefly interrupted during World War I, long-standing relations with China. They were sort of kind of the more preferred European trading partner with China for many ways. They did have up here in Qingdao, however you want to say it here, a concession up here. But they were some of the least territorial, least intrusive European powers. Even Mao had a slightly warm feeling towards the Germans. Germany got a lot of, we were talking about the Soviet Union. With resources, China also had a lot of resources that Germany could use. Not really manufactured goods or anything, but resources. Well, and Chiang Kai-shek's adopted son is basically an NCO in the German army, though he's treated as if he were an officer. He goes through the Panzer Corps training. He goes through the Gebirgsjäger training, but also the sort of elite Gebirgsjäger training, because he earns that badge. And I presume they make him earn it at least to a degree and not just hand it to him, though, diplomat, leader of nation's son in your army. So he speaks German, and I forget right offhand whether it was the German invasion, I think, of Czechoslovakia. So this goes on after this time, but he stays in the German army. I think it's in Czechoslovakia. He is, commanding either a tank or a tank platoon. I think it's a tank platoon. He's actually the commander, and I think driving like Panzer I's or Panzer II's into Czechoslovakia. Now, there's no military opposition to whether, I don't forget whether it was Austria or Czechoslovakia, but both of them were military invasions, just neither of them were opposed. So he's doing that. So this sort of shows the high level of cooperation. Well, Japan has been also pushing a very hard join us instead. We're the successful ones in Asia. We want to be your partners. Well, so to get this deal done for Japan, they actually give even though Japan is needing a lot of resources coming out of Manchukuo, they sort of give over the resources that Germany is losing from, or other resources that Germany is losing from the rest of China, get them out of Manchukuo. And it's also very apparent that, with loss of Shanghai and some of the other places, that you're not going to be able to get your resources out of China eventually anyways. So you might as well sign up and do that. So we're going to go down the historical route, but there was more to it than just getting the German advisors out of it. Somewhere I have just digitally, not actual, tangible, but I have a photo that was taken from a rather high elevation. I don't know, some building or something. I don't know quite what they were on, but it was showing the Germans packing up a train from, because it was after the fall of Nanjing. So they had moved the capital inland here, and the advisors to get out, and loading it up. And so you see this, I don't know, 6 or 8 train cars, the train engine, all these people, trying to load up their possessions on, just sort of lightly, not like furniture or whatever, but just suitcases and traveling trunks and whatnot, both civil and military. And they're pulling out, and they have this basically a whole train car long big swastika flag over the center, because they've got to travel across China to whatever port, I'm guessing down here, but to whatever port, and to not get air attacked by the Japanese. So it was a major withdrawal that they were pulling out. Okay, why does the Panzer IV you're making have short barrel? Well, the Panzer IV, the early one, was a support tank. It was meant to blow up bunkers and things, so it had a low velocity gun on it. The Germans had yet to develop a high velocity 75 millimeter gun, just didn't have one yet to put into it, but they had a low velocity 75 millimeter gun, because what you want to do is throw a fairly heavy, explosive round, not a fast armor penetrating round. So that is why it has the short barrel. And we have both enemy air superiority and air support. Well, I guess you could have both, but it just seems, Well, the Republicans have sent a lot of people over here. I think in 42 is when they started to get the long barrels. Okay, what decisions do we have that we want to take now? Oh, we could motorize the division. Let's do that. Okay, motorized. Yes. Cost us a little bit of political power. Yeah, the F2 is the long barrel. The F1 is the same model of tank with the short barrel. I forget Oust. What is it? Oust D or something? Panzer IV Oust D. Model D or whatever. I forget, but yeah. Why was the League of Nations fall apart at the time? Well, I don't know. That's a complicated question. I think at its core, none of the nations really had the willingness to go to war. Over anything other than national defense, you know, defending their own nation. I think that might be the sort of simple answer. Let's... And let's look at our current needs. Okay, we're slowly catching up on horse transport, heavy artillery. Well, we're very slowly catching up on that as well. Truck transport, and I could really imagine here that we just motorized another division. Okay. Well, let's do these light trucks. Uh-oh, what dangerous thing happened at your work today? Sing? Let's... Oh, well, let's wait for the infantry division to get better organized up. How is supply doing here? Well, fair. We can build another factory. Let's build one more civilian factory. And let's stick it here, sort of deep in Germany. Okay, thinking was now no longer a returning countryman. Okay, torsion bar. Research has. Let's take a quick look here and get it. China. Okay, so this is reform government of the Republic of China is in the red. The Japanese territories are in the beige. How would you motorize a division? Well, just by giving it trucks instead of wagons. I mean, that's basically what's happening with that division. It wasn't an armored division. It's motorizing an infantry division. Okay, that's good. Because we can see, where is it here? The oust F chassis here. Okay, so the F2 is what would have the long barrel once it get here, the F2 turret here. Well, this looks like it would be a good thing to do here. Okay, well, just how much motorization a division has. They have a lot of various divisions. Now, some of these here we can start building, others not. These are given by events, and we can view the layout. They're doing, okay, here's a motor division infantry here. We can see here. So that's all motorized. All the support units, all of that is motorized. I think this is the semi-motorized here. So semi-motorized infantry. Just not some trucks, but not enough trucks to really get it motorized, kind of thing. I think it would mean something like an American infantry division. Not all American infantry divisions have enough trucks to load up everybody, and tow all of their equipment and all of their supplies and drive, supplies for however many days and drive somewhere. A lot, maybe even most of the American infantry divisions, as opposed to armored divisions or whatever, have a large truck motor pool, shall we call it that, in which you may have to make a decision like, at this moment, what are we going to use all these trucks for? So they could be used to moving, supplies up to the front line, or, from some depot, or they can be picking up a, regimental combat team and shifting that around. You can do a lot, but there are no U.S. infantry divisions, and only one or two specialty divisions that do have them, but they're basically no U.S. divisions that have horses in World War II. Exceptions. And there are only one of them that I know that I'm saying deployed overseas. There may still be in America units that to be motorized. In the Philippines, there are some cavalry, American cavalry here, that are still horseback mounted when the war breaks out. So you got guys on horses here, but just a few. They have a few of that. The other unit I'm thinking of is like Merrill's Marauders. They don't have horses. They have, mules for supply transport and whatnot, for the Burma campaign. And the 10th Mountain Division, I believe, also has mules, although they also have trucks, but mules for getting supply up to, remote positions that you can't drive a truck or a Jeep to resupply units. But that's more specialty use of specialty supply ammos or animals, where the German army has massive amounts of horse-drawn everythings. I don't know of a field division that or corps support that has 88 millimeter flat guns that are towed by horses. All the photos I've ever seen have them towed by half tracks, but I have seen 150 millimeter howitzers set up, and they actually sort of disassemble the gun to do so. Set up being towed by a bunch of horses. So they, so these infantry divisions or artillery that's attached to corps level commands that are horse drawn up at a fairly high level. So Germany's using lots of horses. America is basically using 0 horses for the great bulk of the war. Like I say, we can find exceptions, but as a rule, they're not. And so a semi-motorized infantry division is sort of like the American idea of you need to quickly move some troops, shift some forces around. You have trucks to do that, but you can't get everybody in a truck all at once. But I think we're going to end the episode, not the live stream, but the episode here. I want to thank particularly Tim, Strongarm, Niagro, Timothy, Sir Toyjet, Gary, Garrett, Marcus, and the Hoffmanator for support over on Patreon. But everybody else, all I want you to do is lick the like button and comment. I love comments, both from the live chat as well as later viewers on the episode. So please post comments. See you next time for more, yes, more hearts.